When I saw the trailer for this movie, my first thought was the last time I saw Joey King in a movie, it was those dumpster fire kissing booth movies. I was forced to watch all three against my will because Jacob Elordi is in them, so I had no choice. Anyway, I had a feeling that this girl has a bad picker when it comes to Netflix movies, so I was prepared for a mess. To be fair though, there's enough blame to go around. I mean, there was not even a hint of a sizzle between the two leads, and we've all seen better from Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron. She's an Oscar-winning actress, and she was Satine, for goodness sake. And remember how good Zac Efron was in 17 again? It's so much fun when A-listers act in B movies on streamers, but I think they're going to need to have Anne Hathaway level of commitment. Otherwise, the gimmick just doesn't work. Anyway, if you have any doubt as to how bad I thought that this movie was, it was worse than the Tia Smith. I wish I was lying, but I'm not. Anyway, you're going to see. Onto the video. Zac Efron plays Chris Cole, an A-list actor who stars amongst other things in a Mission Impossible / Die Hard type movie franchise. He's wealthy, attractive, loved by women, sought after by paparazzi, and he seems just in general to be living the movie star dream life. Zara is stuck in traffic and she's panicking that she'll be late for work. She also just so happens to be Chris's assistant. She eventually makes it to the restaurant where it looks like Chris is about to propose to his girlfriend and Zara is bringing the ring that he'd forgotten. Turns out, though, that these are breakup diamond earrings. So that ought to take the sting out of things a little. Anyway, he's breaking up with his latest girlfriend because he'll be off shooting a movie and he needs time to prepare. He needs to focus. Later, he asks Zara to go to his ex's to pick up the rest of his things. You know, he's a bit of a spoiled man-baby type. Nicole Kidman's character Brooke is a writer who's getting into the game after a long break. She chats with her editor, who also happens to be her mother-in-law, and her editor gives her a little pep talk about getting out there and living again. Brooke's husband, Zara's father, died 11 years ago, and Brooke and her mother-in-law are still very close. Brooke is also very close with her daughter Zara, who she encourages to stick up for herself at work. Apparently, Chris was supposed to be some kind of mentor to Zara and promised her a promotion, but she's basically his girl Friday, and he has her running errands and catering to his every whim. One such errand is late night shopping, because Chris decides he needs whey protein, and an annoying amount of time is dedicated in this scene to them talking on the phone while she's in the grocery store about nothing. After a disagreement, many of this kind probably, Zara tells Chris that she quit. And she calls him out for promising her career growth but just stringing her along as an errand girl. She tells him that he's basically a cash cow and that his team has him playing this action superhero in bad movies because the checks keep them rich, instead of actually nurturing his talent as an actor and finding interesting, good roles. Chris ends up saying, "No, you're fired," because she put his shirt, made of endangered antelope, in the same bag as his shoes. Yeah, that's the level of silly we're working with. I don't know what to tell you. Zara's best friend, Jeannie, comes over to the house to borrow some clothes. And then finally we get our meet cute. Brooke is spring cleaning one day and she has the music blaring so she doesn't hear somebody who's at the door. It's Chris, who's come over looking for Zara. She mistakes him for an intruder at first and he's like, "Oh damn, you're Zara's mom? Aren't you a little young?" Zara isn't home, but he decides to wait for her and they sit together while he does. He pours a shot of tequila for them and he tells Zara's mom that he's there to beg Zara to come back. The whole tequila thing in the middle of the day is so random, especially because they just keep drinking, but okay. He then starts opening up about how much stress he's under and how bad the writing is in the script for his latest movie that Brooke has obviously never heard of. It's the whole famous guy, but nobody really sees him as the real him, but she sees Chris as Chris and not Chris the movie star. She invites him to her office and she tells him about the myth of Icarus, which his movie is possibly, but maybe not based on. It's complicated, but not very important. Anyway, she gives him a book about Icarus and then they have a bit of a bonding moment over the people they lost. He lost his brother and she obviously lost her husband 11 years ago. After a few hours of chatting and shots, they're getting very cozy on the couch. They're getting closer and then they kiss. Before long, they're all over each other on the way to the bedroom. They literally tear each other's clothes off and then they have sex off screen. The scene with them in the bed is comically bad. It's like an SNL skit. It's overly theatrical and there's a lot of shenanigans, but zero heat. It was actually pretty cringy. Zara comes home then and she walks into her mom's bedroom and she's traumatized by what she sees. I mean, her mom is straddling her boss. She chokes on her grape and she hits her head on the door as she runs out of the room screaming. At the emergency room, they're like, "You know what, Zara, it was just sex. We know that you're shocked, but calm down. Sorry for your injury." Chris tells Zara then that he'll make her associate producer and she agrees to come back to work for him. She tells him though that this thing with her mom, it needs to end. It can't happen again. It's Chris's first day shooting this movie, and I cannot get over how bad this wig is, but I think it's supposed to be bad. The movies are kind of like a low-budget Die Hard type of thing, and Zara has her first dream job as associate producer, just as Chris has promised. Chris asks Brooke out for dinner then, and he wants to talk, and she says no, maybe another time. He says that he's going to make a reservation anyway in case she changes her mind, and that works. She shows up in a stunning evening dress, and he's rented out the entire restaurant. Honestly, the dinner date isn't that bad. There's this moment where Chris is just kind of taken aback by Brooke in the middle of the conversation, and he's like, "What is it about you?" And it's like he's thinking out loud, and then he guesses that it's because he wants to impress her, and she's not really impressed, and that's new for him. I gotta say, we're well into the movie at this point, and the main couple has only seen each other for the second time, so it feels like I've missed something, but no, not much has happened. Nicole Kidman, even though she doesn't have a single line on her face, and it's odd at times, she is a beautiful woman, but still, when Chris was like, "What is it about you?" I was kind of thinking, I don't know why, I just didn't buy it. When Brooke says that the sex can't happen again, he asks if they can be friends, and she agrees. Then he asks if they can go out for a walk in New York, and basically it's this movie studio lot, and it's quite clever and cute. They play dress up in one of the wardrobe departments, and they have beers and they talk. Again, I don't really buy this playful side of Nicole Kidman in this movie. Like, she's not really selling it, but okay. He quotes a line from one of her books, which really surprises her because obviously she assumes that he's never read her writing. They talk more, they kiss before she tells him the rules. Like, he can't lie to her, he can't break her heart, or pretend that this is more than what it is. And then they have fade to black sex. He texts her when she gets home that he had a really nice time, and Brooke tells Zara that she's had dinner with Chris, and both mother and daughter stress about it. I mean, Zara thinks that Chris will be over her mom and onto the next woman in no time, and while Brooke wants this, she's still adjusting to this idea of having a kind of younger, famous lover who's also Zara's boss. Chris and Brooke are properly dating though. They hang out on the beach together, they do puzzles while drinking wine, and he grills dinner for them outside, and honestly, it's all very cozy and believable when there's no dialogue and you just kind of see them from a distance. When Zara goes into her mother's room one day, she sees that her mom has made extensive notes on Chris's movie script. She and Jeannie go to the gala then, where Chris and Brooke are, and she confronts her mom about the script. She also tries to tell her mom that Chris uses women. Zara has an absolute meltdown when her mom says that she hasn't felt things like this for a man since Zara's dad. Zara pretty much says, "How dare you, don't I matter to you?" I'm sorry, this girl is in her mid-20s and it's been 11 years since her father passed away. This is so hysterical. Calm down, Zara. Then she talks about some of her insecurities about living in the shadow of her mom's success. Her mom's meddling took an opportunity away from her. She says that if they carry on dating, she'll move out. And my first thought was, well, good. That's probably the healthiest thing to do here. And Brooke says that maybe Zara moving in wasn't a good idea in the first place. Brooke then kind of breaks things off with Chris, and she says that she needs to fix things with her bratty daughter. And shame, Chris, he's really gracious about it. He tells her not to worry about it and get some rest. He'll see her after the holidays. And as they're about to hang up, he says, "Love you," by accident. And I was like, oh, Chris, the words just came out like naturally, and he catches himself and he's like, oops. Anyway, I actually really like this scene. He calls back 5 minutes later and he's like, "Can I come over?" And Brooke is all flustered, but the scene just cuts and we don't see Brooke and him together, so I guess she says no. The grandma tells Brooke to invite Chris over for Christmas, and she tells Zara, like in a kind way, that she needs to suck it up. They have a really cozy Christmas dinner together, and obviously Chris hasn't had anywhere like a real home to be for Christmas in a really long time. After dinner, Brooke tells her mother-in-law that before Charlie got sick, he wanted a divorce. God, I love Kathy Bates. She's such a treasure. Anyway, Charlie had written a novel which ended up being a complete dud. And then when Brooke's novel ended up being more successful, he became resentful, and then he got sick and they never spoke of it again. And yeah, she was the loving wife at his side through it all. We see that Zara has overheard the entire conversation. Chris also gives Brooke a really thoughtful Christmas gift. He has all of her essays and published stories bound in a hardcover, and it's an anthology of all of her writing. After Christmas, as they're packing up the car and getting ready to go home, Zara sees a pair of Cartier earrings in Chris's luggage, the breakup earrings. When they get back home, she thinks that she's onto him. She's found him out. She tells her mom about all the asshole things that he's made her do, and she also reveals the earrings and asks her mom, "Did he take you to New York Street?" He takes all of his dates there, I guess. Ugh. Anyway, poor Brooke is humiliated, but she's still quite upset at her daughter for the way that she handled this. So Chris's explanation for the earrings is really simple, actually. Before he thought of the idea of having the book made, he panicked, and not knowing what to get Brooke, he possibly got the earrings as a backup gift because he knows, I mean, women love diamond earrings, but he did end up giving her a more meaningful gift. Zara goes to Jeannie's house crying about her main character problems as usual. Just so happens that Jeannie has her own problems. She and her boyfriend broke up 10 days ago, and Zara hasn't even asked her how she's doing. It's exhausting being Zara's friend. It doesn't help that Zara is pretty indignant at first, saying, "Well, Jeannie, how can you not think that I don't care about you?" Anyway, Jeannie's over it for now. The girls end things there. During their breakup, Brooke and Chris spend New Year's Eve alone, and Chris is reading the book that Brooke had given to him. Zara and Jeannie also reconcile. While filming, Chris has a little bit of a crisis on set in his trailer, and he tells Zara that the earrings were just earrings. Sure, he felt scared and he always runs away from good things, but basically the thing with her mom was real and he's sorry for being a bad guy. As for the lot thing, it's the only place that he can go to get away from photographers and where he can actually have some privacy with his dates. That's why he takes them there. Zara apologizes and Chris tells her basically that he fell in love with Brooke. Brooke decides that she's going to take a teaching job at Princeton, and Zara tells her mom that her happiness doesn't have to take anything away from her, and she realizes that now. She apologizes and they make up, and well, Zara, are you going to tell your mom that Chris is a good guy? Well, maybe not. Maybe it's best that she not meddle. Towards the end of the movie, I'm sorry, I really hated the way that Zara parked in the scene. It's not important. She takes Chris on a trip to the grocery store, something that he can't normally do because of the crowds. Zara and her gran end up parent trapping Brooke and Chris in the grocery store. Zara apologizes and says that they deserve happiness, and then when she leaves them, they kiss and make up. I have never seen two actors kiss with less passion in my life. So even the so-called happy ending was deeply unsatisfying. But okay. A year later, Brooke is on NPR talking about her new book, and Zara becomes an actually successful producer with an assistant of her own. And they all lived happily ever after. I felt nothing. You know how you get those movies sometimes that are so bad and you end up doing a 180 in them and enjoy the cringiness of it? Tia Smith, I'm looking at you. And also the after movies, one of which I admit I saw in the cinema. A Family Affair is not one of those movies. It's just all round bad, and there's not a lot of joy to be found in this one. So yeah, if you have seen it, feel free to share your thoughts, and thank you for watching.